Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. My name is Ryan Rice. This video is going to be about the Yakima Overhaul HD rack, the Yakima Topwater Box. And it's also going to be for the subscribers that have been following me for years and why we end up adding the rack to our vehicle. So for the people who have been following me, they know that I've had 6 different kayak trailers. I've hauled the kayak in the back of my vehicle. I've had it on top of ladder racks before. I've had the Will-I loader from Burley Pro. I have transported my kayak in every possible way you can do it. But the last trip down to Alabama, when I went down there for the KBF Knucklehead Championship, towing my new enclosed trailer, which worked out perfectly when I was staying local. But now this year, for 2024, I'm going to be driving a lot. I'm going to be going out on the, I guess you could say, the pro circuit of kayak fishing. So I'm going to be traveling a lot. I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling. But my last trip down to Alabama with my enclosed trailer, which I love to death, and I have a lot of reasons why I like the enclosed trailer, it cost me $525 just to go from South Carolina to Alabama, from Alabama back to South Carolina. That was a mix of all my diesel fuel and also 2 containers of DEF at $20 a pop. So it cost me a lot just to tow just to Alabama. I'm going to be going to Pennsylvania this year. I'm going to be going to Tennessee this year. I am doing some things here in South Carolina, and I don't know how many times I'm going to be going to Alabama again this year and any other state as these years go on. So I had to go back to the rack setup for hauling my kayak. Now I will say in January there's something possibly that's going to be coming that I can't talk about yet. It's not set in stone, but there's possibly going to be another change of how we haul our kayak. But for now, we're going to go over this Yakima Overhaul HD, the Topwater Box, and I didn't do an install video on this because there's 1,000 install videos out here on this, but we will kind of just briefly go over how you install the HD rack and also go over how I installed the Topwater Box on the Yakima Overhaul HD rack. So there's a reason why I went with the Yakima rack this time over any of the other racks. I've had other racks in the past, but this Overhaul HD rack itself, you can see it has this structural support coming down the side. It makes the rack so much more rigid. And I also added this crossbar, which I'm going to show you why I added these crossbars. Not only does it stiffen it up, but you can also mount other accessories to this. You can mount the Rotopax on here, which I'm going to actually have on here, which I'm going to show you in a minute. It just gives you a lot of things that you can mount to these sidebars with going through this T channel basically. And that's the reason why I wanted this rack, for that reason, just to be able to mount a lot of things to it. Plus it's really rigid. Static load, I think on this rack is 800 pounds. Driving down the road is 500 pounds, and taking this thing off-road, it has a weight rating of 300 pounds. I can tell you right now, off-roading with this, if you're doing a lot of heavy off-roading, even though Yakima, I'm sure, has tested it, I'm sure you'd be fine going over 300 pounds. Not by a lot, but I'm sure you don't have to be held to that 300 pounds. They're probably just saying that for safety reasons. I also mounted lights on this, and I didn't drill any holes in this. There was actually holes in this plate already where I mounted these lights. But real quick, before I get into any more detail, let's go over how this thing's actually mounted. And you can see in it here, you got like C channel clamps, and there's 2 per base. And what's really cool about this system as well is that if you have like a Retrax tonneau cover that has the T-slot on the top, they actually have adapter plates that you can mount this. So you can have the tonneau cover, like a retractable tonneau cover, and also this rack at the same time. So if you want to have your bed of your truck as like one large lockable trunk, this rack gives you the ability to do that. That's another plus. Now, I'm not going to be doing that because I'm going to be keeping my kayak in the back of this truck for right now. Like I said, things may change just because I can't be spending $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 just on fuel to go to all these events I'm going to this year. It just overall, it'll cost me $4,000 or $5,000 in fuel. So that's why we went to this setup. But real quick, yeah, these, you know me, I always get distracted. So these plates actually mount with these C channel clamps. Now, I'm not a big fan of using these supplied clamps from any ladder rack until I got these, because a lot of times I'll drill through my top plate in my truck and mount my ladder racks. But these C clamps, it's amazing how sturdy these plates are and how well those clamps actually held. So all you got to do is you just, you know, evenly space out your base plates wherever you can mount them on your truck. You can see here on the Chevy, there's a little bit of this area here which kind of bumps out, which the ties are. So I had to push my rack forward a little bit so these C clamps would actually be able to mount underneath the lip of my rail of my bed. So that's why I couldn't come all the way to the front, which is no big deal. Use these supplied clamps. You don't have to drill through your bed. And that's another reason why I actually really enjoyed putting this rack on, that I know I can take this rack and move it to any truck I have in the future and just space this out. Now, if I get a longer bed, they make longer crossbars. This is made for a shorter bed, but this still expands quite a bit of distance. It'll definitely cover you on a 6 3/4 bed. Now, if you get an 8-foot bed, you're definitely have to use the longer bars. But you just evenly space these, you clamp them down. And then there's these spring-loaded, which you can't see because they supply you with locks. There's these spring-loaded like little tabs on this that pop out. You just slide this down in, tighten that clamp up with the supplied Allen keys, and they give you a lot of nice tools that actually come with this, because a lot of their Allen keys actually has the security like little knob in the middle. So they give you the supplied hardware to mount this rack, so you don't need anything to mount this rack. And you just tighten these up. They give you these supply locks to lock it in place, and that's it. And then all you got to do is mount your upper posts. Now, these upper posts are adjustable. Once again, you're not sitting there, you're not playing around trying to measure this. They actually have engraved, which I don't know if you can see, but there's marking of the measurements. So wherever you need to set, or wherever you want to set, or need to set the height of your bars, you can make them easily all the same height with just the markings on the upper post. Get them all set to where you need it, and then you can mount your crossbars. Now, these are the 68-inch crossbars on this bed. They do make 78 crossbars, 78-inch crossbars. They also make, I think, 50s and 60s. I went with the 68 just because I kind of didn't want them to stick out too far past the truck, and I don't need a longer rail. But if you plan on doing a rooftop tent on top of this or anything else, I would suggest getting the 78-inch, because then you can mount your tent and you can have your topwater box, and you may have a little bit of room to even put something else in there in between, and give you the ability not to have everything so tightly close to each other. So overall, just the initial impression of this rack, I'm really liking it. I've had Thule's before, but with this extra added support, all the ones I've had in the past were just like a straight rail and just like a flat little plate here. They were kind of flimsy until you mounted something in between the rack. Now, a lot of people buy these racks and don't put a box on it. So these give you a lot more stability right off the bat, having this support welded on to the base plate. So if I didn't have the Topwater box on here and then I have these crossbars on here, these racks were very, very rigid. They were definitely the most rigid bars I've ever actually installed on my truck, and that's even using just the supplied C-clamps. Same thing with the crossbars. They actually give you numbers. It may be hard to catch up on the camera because they're very faint, which is good, so they don't stick out too much. But there's numbers on this as well. This way, when you put your 2 Allen keys up top with your plate, you can keep the bars evenly spaced without having to guess at it or figure out, going back and forth 100 times with a tape measure, making sure that they're the same distance off the end of your supports. So overall, this ladder rack, once you get everything unboxed and laid out, you're probably talking maybe 45 minutes max, maybe a little bit longer. Depends if you have to play around with anything. You may be able to do it even quicker. So it's a very, very easy install. A good thing is too, with having these crossbars on here, and if I want to remove this whole setup, even with the Topwater box on it, you loosen up these 4 spring-loaded clamps, and you can pick this whole thing up and take it off your truck and just leave the base plates on here if you want. So it's an easy removable if for some reason you're not going to be using your rack for a long period of time. Now, I don't plan on taking this rack off until I change truck, so that's why I didn't mind putting the lights on. But if I still have to take these off real quick, I could just unwire these lights and still take this rack off very, very fast. But just for the overall impression of the Yakima Overhaul HD, it would probably be my top choice of any clamped on ladder rack. I think this is a very clean, simple, easy removable ladder rack. This is the reason why I got it. I wouldn't steer you guys wrong. You don't have to get these crossbars, but this gives you the ability to mount on the inside and outside a whole bunch of accessories. Same thing with underneath the bar and on top of the bar. You have all this channel, so you can mount things underneath, even like a water tank underneath this, and still not take up any room on my bed. The possibilities are endless. The reasons why I added these lights, obviously, it's pretty much obvious. So when you're in the dark setting up in the morning on my kayak, I have lights I can see in the morning. I had the back rack on here before. I went to this rack and I always had lights on it, and I always put lights on my vehicle just because I'm always getting ready in the dark. And it's, you know, it's even good. You get a flat tire on the side of the road. You know, you do have some cargo lights inside this truck, but even if you get a flat tire on the side of the road, it lights up the whole area around you. It also helps people see you when you're pulled on the side of the road. So I think adding lights to any vehicle when you plan on doing things out of the bed of your truck is always a good idea. It's very easy to do. It's not that hard to do. You can have somebody do it for you if you're not knowledgeable enough to actually wire these into your truck. So before we get into the Topwater box, I just want you to know that you can mount this box multiple ways. It gets supplied with this, almost like you could say a U-bolt clamp that goes through and mounts to this plate here that actually wraps around the bar. Now this is my second Topwater box. I had a Topwater box on my previous kayak trailer, which I sold, but I went the route because you have this top T, you know, the top channel in the actual ladder rack. I wanted a cleaner look, and I was a little skeptical about it, but they give you a little, I don't know if you can see in there, they give you a little, you know, T-bolt to mount in their track, and you just use the supplied wing nuts from the U-bolt. Comes with the Topwater box, and you can just run it through this plate. Now you can see in here I have tape and stuff. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. And they give you rubber, like a really thick rubber pad that you just use a self-stick stuff to put underneath this actual plate to hold this from sliding back and forth on your ladder rack. Like I said, I was a little skeptical about this mount, but now that I have it installed, this thing just having one T-slot nut slash bolt going through this Topwater box, it's very sturdy, it's very safe, it doesn't move around, it doesn't slide around. So, you know, I know it comes with their rack and they also probably engineered it, all that stuff, but still, to me, having this would be more of a rigid, more secure setup. But like I said, I've been with this now for a week. I cleaned everything out of this box so you guys could see this, but having a very clean install like this while having this wrapped around the bottom of your bar underneath down here, it's a very clean install, and it just makes it look nice, and I'm very happy with using this setup instead of just using what's supplied with the Topwater box itself. Now the tape and everything on here, the reason behind this black Gorilla tape is that the seal, which I'm going to show you a picture of, it just doesn't hold tight. They give you a long slot in here to be able to mount this box to multiple different spans of ladder racks, on the side of trailers, wherever. So you got to fill this whole space in here with the rubber seal, because if you don't, dust, water, moisture will get up inside this as you're driving down the road. But the seal just doesn't hold. The first Topwater box that I went over, and I actually think I did a review on it as a separate video, I did the same thing. This is my second one. I was hoping that maybe they would change it or something, but they didn't. The seal just doesn't hold. I have a picture of that, and I just take good black Gorilla tape. Once this is on there, it doesn't come off. You can take it off, but it doesn't come off. I leave the rubber seal in there. So let's see, we can probably see from underneath here. Yeah, you can see a little bit of that seal sticking through there, but it just doesn't hold tight. So I leave this seal in there and I cover it with black Gorilla tape, and everything's nice and airtight for the most part, and it's a lot better without having to worry about all that rubber seal coming out as you're driving down the road. Now overall, I could say this is a long-term review on the Topwater box, because this is my second one within a year. The first one I had no problems with, and it was on a trailer really bouncing around, sitting on an angle. I had no problem with it whatsoever. Breaking, cracking, problem with the springs on the end, because I know people have had problems with these springs on the end popping, but it's just a spring. You could always just easily fix that if you're handy enough. Plus, if you register, it's going to be warranted anyway. Now that it's on a ladder rack on a truck, it's actually going to be on a lot smoother riding, I guess you can say, apparatus. So it's going to be able to last probably a lot longer than just bouncing up and down really hard on a trailer, because you know small utility trailers, kayak trailers, they bounce very easily. But I will say this box is probably by far the best way to carry your rods and also gear, which I'm going to show you what I keep down here. This box itself with these pre-made little ribs here is made to set up for 8 rods. Now you can take this foam insert out and flip it upside down, and it's actually flat, and you could actually get a lot more rods probably really pushed against each other, and able to probably even carry 12 if you needed. Also, you can remove these completely, and this is almost like one long storage box. The best time to buy these boxes is in November, because every year, as of now that I'm aware of, every year in November they give you 20% off. That's when I just bought all this stuff. I bought everything, and I saved between the rack and the Topwater box. I saved over almost $450 buying it during November. So if you can hold out and buy it around, like you could say the holiday shopping time, which is November anymore for everybody, you can save a lot of money if you have to buy this. So this box retail is $629. I got it for $500, so I saved $129 on that box alone. The rack, I think I saved over $300 between the rack itself and these crossbars. So it's worth the wait if you can to November to buy these things. So I wanted to show you before I put the fishing rods in here what I actually store up in here besides fishing rods. I keep my rain gear. So I always have my rain gear with me, so not to worry about leaving it at home, forgetting it. It's always in this box. I have an extra tackle box with just some additional tackle, or sometimes I even keep all my tackle up in here for the trip. I have my cold weather gloves. I have my paddle broken down. I have my catch board. I have my camera pole. I had my Yak Attack high vis flag, changed that with the American flag, and I also keep my boots in here. So all this stuff's in this container at all times, in this Topwater box. So I just threw a couple rods in here to show you what it looks like. And when I put the rods in, I crisscross them, the reel to the top, and that's the way you can get 8 rods to fit in here. You can definitely jam 10 in here, even with just leaving these rod supports with the little cutouts in them without flipping this over. You can jam 10 rods in here easily. The most I ever carry is 8. Most of the time I carry 6. So this fits all my gear that I want to keep in here, like my longer stuff and things that will fit underneath here, and my rods together with no problem. And it gives you lockable storage. You close it, lock it up, and you're good to go. Now you can see how I have it set up. I didn't put the box facing the outside. This way I can get up here. I have a step built in the truck, get up here once my kayak's taken out of the bed of the truck, and not have to use a ladder or step on my wheel. I have to worry about slipping off when it's wet. I like just coming up here in the bed. I can take all my gear out, lay it down on the bed of the truck, put my rods up here in the corner, get off the bed of the truck, and take everything off. That's why I faced it this way. So I wanted to show you the side rails on the rack, and the rack more or less bare before I started putting accessories on it, so you get an overall view of the rack. But I'm already starting to accessorize it, and I want to show you what we got started going on here. So as you can see here, I'm adding the Rotopax containers. This one here is a 2-gallon storage system. This one's for water. In this little 2-gallon container, which you say, oh, that doesn't look that big, I got a ton of tools in here, things to fix my kayak. I actually had the Allen keys from Yakima for their rack, which is a little bit of a theft deterrent. It has that little knob in the middle of the Allen key. I also have extra straps in here for my kayak. I also have paracord. I have a first aid kit. You know, I keep a first aid kit on my kayak itself, but you know, in an emergency and you're panicking, it's right here on the side of your truck. I have so much in this container. I got gloves. I can't tell you how much I have in this 2-gallon container. Now it's not waterproof. That's why they invented Ziploc. As you can see, I also have the locking Rotopax holders on this, because you know how it is today, unfortunately. If it ain't tied down, if it ain't locked up, things walk. People like to steal things, unfortunately, and nobody respects other people's property, but it is what it is. So it's worth the extra money for an extra $25 to get the locking Rotopax, so you can lock these things to your vehicle, because they are not cheap. The water itself, the reason why I keep water and I got the 2-gallon container is in emergency when it comes to first aid. Once again, you get a large cut or your buddy gets a large cut, you're going to want to flush out that cut before you bandage it up. Also, when I get back from saltwater fishing, or if I'm just in a muddy environment or a dirty environment, I like to rinse off my gear from saltwater. I like to rinse off my feet. I like to rinse off my shoes before I get in the truck. That little extra step helps prevent the interior of your truck from getting as dirty, and you don't have to worry about cleaning it as much. So water, to me, having clean portable water is very important. It always has been. I've always carried water with me, and one way or another I've always had water with me. But this does tell you to leave a little bit of room on the backside for that freeze. These are very sturdy containers. They will not break very easily at all. They're good to be outside in the sun all the time. And what's cool about these Rotopax is, if you can see this design right here, these are made to interlock, and you can go horizontally and get 2 of them locked in together, and that's a really cool design too as well. These are badass looking things on the truck. It makes the truck overall look cool with the rack. And my wife is always upset that I'm spending money, but for my wife to come home and say, wow, that really looks cool, you know, it was well worth it then, guys. So I know I covered more than just the overhaul rack on this video and the Topwater box, but I wanted to cover why I'm carrying the kayak the way I am for my subscribers who follow me. That's the reason why. We got to save money on the fuel costs instead of throwing it out the door. This is my second video on technically the Topwater box from Yakima. Nothing's changed since the last one I purchased. They still have a problem with that seal. I'm hoping they can come up with a better seal, but just using that seal with the Gorilla Tape, it's not a big deal. Gorilla Tape stuff, that black Gorilla Tape is awesome. And just using the seal and the Gorilla Tape works flawlessly. I haven't had any problems with this box, and you can see the amount of stuff you can keep in that box at all times, plus your rod. So I think it's the best way to transport your rod, because it's more than just transporting your rods. It gives you all that storage as well, and especially for longer items like your camera pole or your flag. I love that box to death. This is my first video on the Yakima Overhaul HD. I am going to do a review long term. I know I will not have a problem with this rack. I've never owned one before, but I just know the quality, the build of this rack, I'm not going to have a problem with it. Now, it's black powder coated, so obviously you're going to get scratches on it. You're going to scratch it up loading kayaks on it, and that's the reason why I got this rack, is because, you know, with my one kayak in the bed, my second one's going to go on top. That's the reason why I got the rack too. This way I can keep 2 kayaks with me, because before my trailer I was keeping 2 kayaks with me. So my wife comes out with me, or a buddy comes out with me, I can throw the second kayak on top of the rack, have my kayak in the bed, and have all my rods and reels in the Topwater box. But I know that this rack is not going to give me a problem. You're going to scratch it. Yes, it's black powder coated. If people complain about scratching the racks, I can't help you with that. It's a ladder rack. It's made to be used and abused, and this is what this thing's made for. So you scratching it up, and if you out there on the social media area saying that, oh, Yakima racks are bad, they scratch, blah, blah, blah. I hate to tell you this, all racks are going to scratch, especially when they're black powder coated. If you don't want a rack that looks like it's scratched, you have to get either bare aluminum or bare stainless steel. So that's it, guys. I'm going to update you guys down the road with the rack. But like I said before, if something may happen after the new year, this rack and this Topwater box is still going to be on my truck, no matter if something changes in the future. The only thing I'm going to be adding is the deck drawer system. Can't talk about it now, but I will keep you guys updated. And you know, I'm transparent with you guys, so you guys pretty much know everything I do when it comes to kayak bass fishing and kayak fishing in general, how I transport the items I buy. There's no secrets here. You guys know everything that I do when it comes to doing this sport that we all love to do. So as always, guys, I really appreciate you guys stopping by. If you haven't been to my channel before, you guys know what to do. Hit that thumbs up, drop a comment, subscribe if you like this content. If you don't, then don't subscribe. I can't pull your arm to do that, but I would appreciate it if you do, so we can keep building this channel. So as always, guys, be safe on the water, and I'll catch you guys on the water. Thanks for watching.